There's a strong chance you're not that far off from winning in business and at the game of life. It just takes one idea, but you gotta have unwavering belief and burning desire. If you can couple that with a lockdown strategy that's fueled by heart, hustle, and muscle, you got a shot at winning. There's one thing that all champions have in common. They get shit done. So welcome to the Get Shit Done experience. Well, we are back at it again. You are in studio with us. This is the Get Shit Done experience, also known as the GSDXpodcast.com. Hey, look, we are so appreciative that you've been following, you've been liking, you've been rating, you've been reviewing, you've been sharing it with friends. We're on a roll, baby, and this is how we get shit done. I hope that you are getting shit done right now because you deserve the best. And it starts with you believing that. And I'm telling you right now, if you got that self-belief, you are going to get shit done. We've got somebody here who's all about mindset. He knows all about how to get the right headspace going to get shit done. He's got multiple corporations. We're here with Mr. Justin Mahwikizi.
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm glad to be here.
Justin is the author of The Manufacturing of Poverty. We're going to get into that. He's also a business owner working with mergers and acquisitions and financing for machinery for small to mid-sized companies. And then he's got a television station as well. So that's going to be super fun to get into. Justin, I'm really curious. As I was reading through your bio and I was digging in, you talked about the mindset you need to be happy.
Correct, John.
All right, so I just teed it up for you. What is that mindset? I love being happy.
It's an achievement mindset. It's a mindset that says that you have a goal, you're going to go towards it, and you expect ups and downs. Most people fail and stop when there's a small hiccup. And so the question is, how do you keep going through it, knowing that it's expected, that it's going to come in to reach your goal? And, you know, I wrote a book called The Manufacturing of Poverty. In it, I reflect on Plato's book, a story. It's called The Allegory of Plato's Cave. Have you ever heard of it before?
I have not.
Can I take a few minutes to go through it?
Hey, it's your show, baby.
Imagine that there is a cave. And this cave has two entrances, one from the other side. And in that cave, often there's a troupe of puppeteers with their puppets that go through it every week, a couple times a week, performing from one town to the other. But in that same cave, there's a big fire that allows them to walk through a walkway. And in front of that big fire, there's a big flat wall.
Okay.
At the bottom of that wall, there's prisoners that are chained to the floor and can only look at the wall. Their head can only see the wall, and that's all they see. And every time the puppets and the puppeteers come in, going from one side to the other, they project their shadow based on the fire on the wall. And so these prisoners, all they know is the shadows on the wall. And over time, they create stories about it. It becomes their culture, their gods, their devils. You know, they create stories around it, the culture. But one day, one of them gets freed, and he realizes
it's all been a lie.
Life is, it's not what it seems.
Boy, that sounds very familiar with what's happening right now in the world, doesn't it?
That's right. And so he follows the puppets and the puppeteers, and then he realizes an outside world. For the first day or two, he's blinded. His eyesight is not used to the sun. But now he sees the water, the birds, the kids, all of that. He realizes a whole different world out there. So he rushes back to tell his buddies, except it takes about a day for his eyes to get acquainted again with the dark. And his buddies say, oh, look at this guy. He went up there, comes back, he's blind. We can never go there. Then he proceeds to tell them what he saw and that their whole world is upside down.
Yeah.
They get so angry that he realizes that if he frees them, they might kill him. And so Plato asks the question, what would you do as a person? Would you risk your life and free them, or would you leave? And so that's a key mindset. What would you do? Let's ask. We're going to be a live questioning here.
There's always savings, but it's about way more than savings alone. Total Technology Solutions Group redefines managed print services. Excellence is the minimum standard. TTSG is a true managed print service provider, deeply understanding your technology and business goals. Your business is unique. Our solutions are tailored to your current and future business goals. Our customer-first approach empowers and delights. TTSG can ensure your technology environment will scale as your business does. So as you navigate business and constant change, partner with TTSG for premium advisement and seamless implementation of your technology goals. We set the bar high. Your people deserve it. Peace of mind, powerful innovation, TTSG.com. I think I would struggle mightily with the idea of losing life.
Right.
But I think that goes back to a deeper question. Correct. What happens when you lose life?
Correct.
And if you have the proper belief there, you're not afraid of losing the life because the life continues.
Correct.
So then it goes to do the right thing, even if it hurts. So I think I would probably ponder and struggle with the idea, and then I would hope that I would do the right thing and be brave and integral and dignified, and say, okay, I'm gonna lose my life to save them.
It's perfectly on brand, and here's how I use it in my business with that story. There in my book, I interviewed over 40,000 people. I asked folks who said, yes, we're going to take 100% risk. We're going to risk freeing them, even if it costs our life. I asked a 12-year-old, and he said, well, how did that person get freed? And I said, I don't know. Plato doesn't tell us. Well, if somebody else could be freed at some point, I'm just going to go outside the cave and build a house right outside the cave so that the next person who comes in, I can bring him in and take care of him. A medical school teacher said, I'm going to free the weakest person first, bring him out. Then he can come back and testify and convince everybody else. But I also asked two key people, a Cook County judge and a PhD graduate of philosophy from the University of Chicago. They both said, we're gone. There's 0% risk. They're out, right? So why is this important? The person who takes 100% risk, they're the guys on the line at a company. They're the salespeople. Mm-hmm. And what are you? As professional.
I mean, at the end of the day, no matter what your title is, you're in sales. You have to convince people to work for you.
Correct.
Be productive, join the company, or buy from you.
Correct. And those guys will walk through fire for a company. They believe in the brand, they'll bring it out. And those are the 100% risk. They're a hero gene. They're promoting the
brand champions.
Correct. The person who takes 1% at a time is a teacher. The person who goes and builds a house outside the cave, that's a nonprofit leader.
Okay.
And the person who's 100% zero risk, we're going to go, forget about it. They're the managers. They don't like rocking the boat. Mm. And so when you're hiring, having this conversation about this story, a simple story in an interview can tell you if this person is going to succeed on the sales, on the line, or as a manager, you want them to be in charge when you go on vacation because they're not going to rock the boat.
Yeah.
They're going to know exactly what to make, the decision to take, zero risk, keep everything as is. So I use it from a recruiting perspective and helping assess.
It's kind of like the DISC theory, but through a fable.
Yes.
It's really interesting.
But from an achievement mindset, understanding this story tells you, okay, where are you trying to go and what persona, what archetype do you want to be? And if you understand where you are instinctively, then you have the fortitude to keep pushing through to get where you're going. If you're 0% risk, you're destined to be a CFO, and that's great. Right? If you're a salesperson, you're pushing for those numbers and that's where you want to be, then you can understand what you're doing, how you're doing it, and to achieve your goal.
So you're saying there's no wrong answer. It's more of an identity, a self-awareness, a mindset.
Correct.
And so what you're saying is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the identification of which one of those you are that will help you to be happy.
Correct. When you're subconscious and conscious mind are one, you reach a oneness. This is who I want to be. This is what I'm doing. There is no guessing. That voice inside is not going to be putting all doubts in your head, right? Often enough, we try to do something and internally you're telling yourself, what are you doing? You're not going to do this. But if you're aligned, your subconscious will create all kinds of solutions you were not aware of to get where you're going. And so this story allows you to align both of those mindsets. So you only have one mission and one mission only.
So I read this book called Project 369. It refers a lot to numerology. It refers a lot to higher power. It refers a lot to Nikola Tesla and the way that he thought, and the power of the number
369.
9 he thought was the perfect number, like absolutely perfect. This guy was so hell-bent on it that everything that he wanted to have happen. He wrote it down 3 times, then he wrote it down 6 times, then he wrote it down 9 times, 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, 9 times before he went to bed. So it hit that subconscious.
That's right.
Because apparently when you're in that subconscious, that is the most powerful thinking that you could possibly have.
It is.
But it's extremely difficult for people to reach that. But one of the things that it talked about was that there is an inner world and an outer world. Mm-hmm. Virtually all of us are living in the outer world.
Correct.
Stuff, right?
Correct.
Materials.
Correct.
How much money we make.
Feelings.
What's your title?
Yes.
What's going on in society? Yep. The ball game.
Yes.
And because of that, we're miserable because we are not connected to our inner world.
Correct.
Our inner world is that self-awareness, that belief, that connection, that oneness that you're talking about.
Correct.
And that you are measured by the strength of that, not the materialistic outer world things.
100%.
So in your 30,000 people you spoke to write this book, how many of those people do you think are kind of stuck in that outer world and not living in that oneness that you're referring to?
I'd say 98%.
Really?
98%. Everyone has this struggle. We lose it at some point. At 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
You lose that connection with that oneness, right? That's when you
when you think you're Superman and you actually believe you're Superman.
Right. And believe me, you've seen videos of people lifting cars when their family members are pinned under there, right? Super strength comes out of nowhere. And so when you lose that, most of us, it doesn't matter if you're a preacher, you're a business guy, you're a politician, we're all trying to get accepted by society, but we don't accept ourselves. And there's this exercise that I talk about. I brought people in front of a mirror in the morning, right before when you get up, and you just tell that person you see, that imperfect person, that you love them 10 times in a row. This lady that I had do this exercise could not go past 3 times.
Wow.
Before she started crying. Because there's that self, that
the
person
shame,
see,
the regret.
They're not perfect. They don't have this because, the world tells you.
Or they're saying it and don't believe it. And that's what hurts.
They don't believe it. That's right. And you can tell sometimes people tell others, hey, I love you. And they'll roll their eye.
Mm-hmm.
Like
won't accept the compliment.
But they don't really think they deserve it.
Yeah.
And we're all walking, living this. And so that's what I learned. I left banking to I thought I was going to teach people about finance. They taught me about life. And this book is the result.
It's amazing. So you're an anomaly. How does somebody that is an analytical finance type person that is so strong with math, right?
Yeah.
Typically people that are so effective with math and are analytical.
Sure.
That is so amplified and strong that they don't have that emotional, a creative side.
Yes.
So I always find it very intriguing to interact with somebody who's tapped into both.
Yes.
Okay, so like when you're out on this journey and you're doing this, how did you kind of tap into that other side?
Sure. My family comes from a country in East Africa called Burundi, Central East Africa. And back in the 90s, there was a civil war in the country, like most of the crazy stories you hear out there in the news. I was 9 years old and my whole world fell apart, neighbor against neighbor, etc. But my parents were teachers. They pushed education. So I was a reader even at that age. Most kids, when they go through traumatic events between the ages of 8 and 14, 8 and 12, I'm sorry, they no longer trust mankind. All right. I instead went in and started questioning what the hell is happening. Why can I not play with my friends because of that? Right.
Yeah.
And so my whole career was, try to figure out how do you make peace versus the other way around. And so even in finance, I'm trying to understand what is foreign exchange? Where do payments go? How do contracts work? How do you fight in court if you don't? And so when I was in 2014, I was working at Northern Trust. I drove into town to take care of business matter. When I drove through the south side of Chicago, I stopped to get gas and I saw this area that had so much poverty in the sense. And poverty is not the lack of things. It's the look in the eye. It's the I don't give a shit. Right. And that's when they can
like this, like the soul is
gone,
dulled.
Like you can tell you're not seeing it. They're looking at you, but you're not seeing.
There's no light.
And I couldn't understand how the wealthiest country in the world could create the same results that I saw in my country, in the poorest areas of my country. And so that's why I decided to say, let me go see what's happening. And I learned so much from it. And so the creative side comes in, try to find the biggest solution is how do you stop war, right? And so that's where my side of the brain has always stayed lit, even if I'm in finances or numbers.
I love it. So how do you get started in that career?
In finance?
In finance.
Yeah.
I always ask people that, like, I'm certain that you didn't wake up at, like, one day 5 years old and you're like, hey, Mom, I'm going to get into mergers and acquisitions, and I'm sure there's a bunch of small businesses out there that could really use my help to put together a valuation and to show their business in the best possible light so they could raise capital to expand their business. Like, if you did have that thought at 5 years old, then I'm talking to an absolute prodigy. But when did that hit you where you're like, finance is where I'm going to go?
Well, I was in college and I attended an ex-Secret Service guy who guarded Reagan. He came to speak. I was a business student.
My brother-in-law guarded Reagan.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I said we got to share
there you
notes.
Go. Yeah.
You might be the same person.
Well, I can't share many notes. You can't tell me anything. But yeah.
But he's speaking. But there's the dean of the school, the head of the finance department. He gave a great speech. He was an ex-military guy. I went to high school at Valley Forge Military Academy.
Okay.
I learned so much from 20 minutes from us. But what he said was this: if you want to change your society, if you want to change anything, you have to figure out what capital formation is. And I was like, I never heard, what is capital formation? But when you read about it, it's how do you bring resources to create an entity that's going to create revenue for the community or for the family, whatever it is, right? So you're not just selling a widget, you're creating the widget so that you provide employment, you provide taxes, but you also amplify a little kid's imagination, what they can do when they grow up. And so when I heard of that, investment banking, merger and acquisition is the best way to do capital formation, especially today. You have everybody doing their own, solopreneur type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But there's so much, so far you can grow doing this stuff. Now, if you can combine two people's efforts to amplify and bring more clients, you can process more clients in. Now you're creating wealth for both potential competitors, but you're bringing in and making them work as a team, and you can create value that way.
So it was always purpose.
Nothing. Yes, 100%.
I mean,
purpose.
like most people would, hey man, I want to make a bunch of money. If you go where the money is, right?
Yes.
But you just went right to purpose, and you
purpose.
saw right beyond. So what you're saying is that the finance part was just a cog.
A means to
get to purpose.
The purpose. Literally, the day after I had that interaction on the south side of Chicago, I emailed my manager and said, "I've made the decision about my future here." And they still today probably can't understand how I walked away because I wasn't a fast track career. I was like, no, we gotta have that conversation and bring some of that wealth in different communities, whether it's rural or urban. It's the same thing. Is how do you bring capital formation to benefit everybody?
So you created your blessings. We're on the fast track, making money. You recognize very quickly now you're in a position where you've made some money. You know some things, and now you're going to take that power and you're going to apply it to helping people.
Yes.
And helping communities.
Correct.
And so on. So, you talk about in your book, how do we overcome fear that might be holding us back?
Yes.
What is that? What is that fear that holds people back? Is it failure? Is it the fear of success? Some have fear of success.
Fear of success.
Yeah.
I have a saying, in poor communities, there's a fear of success. In rich communities, there's a fear of failure.
Mm.
And so those communities can't interact because one cannot be seen as a failure.
Yeah.
The other person, the only success examples I've seen ended badly, right? You win the lottery, 3 years later, you're bankrupt. You go to the NFL, 3 years after retiring, you're bankrupt. So to them, it's what is success, right? But the real thing is shame. People are, first, if you haven't reached that oneness with your subconscious, you don't like what you see. You're trying to be something everybody else is going to accept. So if you fear success, you're going to be ashamed of not achieving it. If you fear failure, you cannot be seen as a failure. So people are ashamed of who they really are, and you have to overcome that. And Plato's Cave is a great way to say, hey, listen, there's different scenarios out there. You can be whoever which character you want. But there is nothing wrong with you being who you are to yourself, to the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so that's what stops people from taking that first step. What if I fail at this? What if I don't achieve this? therefore I won't do it. I'm comfortable in the problems that I know versus the problems that I don't know.
So I don't want to get biblical with you, but I did see something recently that talked about the term "don't be afraid" is used 365 times in the Bible.
Really?
It's the most used phrase in the Bible, 365 times. Now, how many days are there in a year?
That's exactly where I went.
So that's kind of amazing when you talk about that. Where do you think that fear of shame is rooted?
I think it's how we bring ourselves up, right? Don't do this, don't do that. Fix your shirt. You're constantly being told you're not doing the right thing. And some guys, if you go to military, you'll reach that oneness, because the only way you're going to pass that boot camp and go through those nights and put that one more pull up, you have to be as one. And so around the ages of 7 and between the ages of 7 and 12, most people get disconnected that way. You now have to be accepted by your friends. And we don't really teach our kids to go in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself 10 times every morning. I do that for my kids because I learned this after speaking with all those folks. It's accepting that you're going to fail, and that failure is not a bad thing, right? I will walk in, we'll have a conversation, and if I screw up the conversation, I'll learn something. The next one will be better, right? You'll figure out the answers. And so education is not learning your math, reading, and everything else. Education is understanding who you are, what you're strong at, and not being afraid to look like a fool.
So do you think the most successful people in the world have failed the most?
100%. That's the only way you're going to figure out how to win. I always say you need to figure out every single way you can fail, so that the only result that's left is you winning. But you got to go through that process.
Yeah.
Right. The Irish say, if you find yourself in hell, keep walking.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
Winston Churchill.
Is that Winston?
Winston Churchill said.
That's right. Yeah. Keep walking. And most of us are taught not to walk. We're taught to sit down, and
to your point. I mean, that's very true. I mean, there's social norms, right? And there's behavioral norms. You have to behave this way.
Correct.
And typically those things are really embraced and maybe paid more attention to between 8 and 12.
Yes.
Because you now start to have an identity and a personality, and you're starting to discover kind of where you're going to be as a human being. And that becomes hardwired into you that, a good boy doesn't have his shirt untucked.
That's right.
Well,
that's right.
Maybe that's their creative style that, so the creativity starts to get stripped away.
Correct. The conformity comes in. And back to the Bible, as above, so below. Whether you're rich or poor, it's the same exact trend. Over 100 people that I interviewed with from prison for heinous crimes, I always asked them, when did you decide to go to the streets? At what point did you do that? Oh, I was about 8, 10, 11. The lights were cut off. I was a single mother.
Just angry.
Raised. I got to do something. My sister is hungry, blah, blah, blah. So at that age, that's when you have to, especially as a boy, you have to figure out how to either provide or protect. And if you don't have parents to give you that sports outlet or music, something for you to do, and you can feel you're part of something, that's when the decision to go the bad route happens. So that's the critical age.
It's amazing. Fight or flight at 8 to 12 years old is just way too early.
That's right. I mean, in the olden days, when you were 13, you were ready to be a soldier.
3 o'clock.
Right? You would go out there. You were a grown man.
You either go be a soldier or you're getting married.
Basically, yes.
Have some kids. We need people to work on the farm.
Yes. And so that age is the most critical part. And if you look at the results in the education system, if you look at those grades, if they can't read, if their literacy rates are low, we call it the school to prison pipeline. It starts at 8 and 12. If you're not educating them and they're not hitting their numbers, it's extremely hard to bring them back at 12th grade, college, or whatnot.
Yeah, and we do a disservice.
Absolutely.
And that we move them through the pipeline.
Absolutely.
When they're not ready.
We learn that we don't let them fail.
Yeah.
Repeat that grade once or twice. You will never want to repeat that grade again. It inspires you, that oneness. You're like, I cannot sit here with my little brother again. I gotta get better at this.
He's passing me.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So how the hell did you find the time to interview 30,000 people?
I get shit done.
I tell you,
That's why I'm
okay,
here.
end of the podcast. We're going to drop the mic there. Where's my camera? He just did it. All right. So seriously though, 30,000 people, that's a lot of people. I mean,
So when I had the encounter of the South Side of Chicago, I went home in the suburbs and I wrote down 100 assumptions. This is what I believe. All my biases. I just didn't, no filter. I wrote it all down. And I
just
said,
a brain dump.
A brain dump. I don't like this profession. These people are bad. These people are good. I wrote it all down. And then I said, okay, now I got to test it, right? That's the analytical part of mine, part of my brain. I said, okay, well, how am I going to test these assumptions? I have to get a randomized sample of people that I can talk to, rich or poor. How am I going to do it? The best solution I could find at that point was to become a rideshare driver, where I don't pick who comes in my car.
Oh my gosh.
And have a conversation.
You did the old HBO show.
Old school. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
remember
Taxi
the
Confessions.
yeah. Okay.
And
what a sociology experiment.
That's right. That's right. And that's when I realized that whether you're rich or poor is the same trend. Because I would talk to a Cook County judge, I would talk to an investment banker, I would talk to a healthcare doctor doing oncology coming to speak at a conference here in Chicago. But then also I talked to the poorest areas, whether they're the Hispanic communities, Black communities, the other communities. When we're having a conversation, they're struggling with the same exact thing. I don't know what I'm doing, or I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to do X, Y, Z, but my spouse is saying this, my friends are saying this, my parents have disowned me. There's really bad stories that you go through it. And that informed me. And guess what? Out of the 100 assumptions that I wrote down, 98% of them were wrong. And so it taught me that we're all going through the same thing. So your assumptions are always right. You always got to test it. So that's the scientific part of my brain to say, hey, be humble. And they humbled me. I mean, you have no idea how many women prayed with me. Different denominations.
Yeah.
Muslim, Christian, Jewish. And we would have that conversation. We would
there
resonate
had to be
with
an
each
energy
other.
happening in that
And
ride
put
share.
their hands like, oh man, I would come home. I never came home sad.
Yeah.
You learn these stories, either you're helping somebody or they're helping you.
Yeah.
And so it was a great experience.
So I hop in your cab.
Yeah.
Like, take me to Fifth Street. And then you go, let me ask you a question. What's the meaning of life?
No.
How did you play it?
That's how you doing.
Yeah.
Great weather. And then you shut up. People want to talk.
They just riff.
They want to talk. They're not going to see me tomorrow. So they can literally, the amount of stuff I get told is incredible. But, great. The beach, thing is going on. And then one of the most interesting stories is a kid that I picked up in the 70s, south side of Chicago. It was August. Everybody's at the beach. He comes in and he says, I say, hey, all the girls are at the beach. Are you going to go to the beach? What's going on? This kid must have been 19 years old. He confesses to me, I've never been to Lake Michigan. I've never seen Lake Michigan. I said, it's impossible. You're in Chicago. You're 19 years old. What's going on? His whole existence in a 7-block radius.
Yeah.
His, the hood, the gang culture.
Yeah.
That's his
The
world.
just
That's
in
his
concrete and fencing.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
A self-imposed prison. So I turned off the ride app and I said, listen, I'm going to drive you. So we went to the South Shore, drove all the way to Evanston and went back. And when I dropped him off where he was going, kid was crying.
Yeah.
He had been there the whole time, right? And I use this example to show that we're all self-consumed with a shame or whatever it is, or whatever, preconceptions we have, that when people get in my car and we just have a conversation, I have them, Bob Marley, some music, quick conversation. Hey, I like this song. Great. 30 minutes later, they're pouring out and I'm listening. Or I'm pouring out and they're listening.
So how do you remember it all?
I have notebooks. I wrote names.
Okay. You go steering with your knees and writing?
No.
Like, hey, can you pay attention?
When they leave, interesting story, I wrote it down.
Yeah.
And the problem why it's taken so long, why it was over thousands of conversation, is that at first it was like a 300-page book. But these kids, they don't read anymore, right?
No.
So I had to figure out how to condense that into 89 pages. And so instead of talking about my whole journey, I just say, here's the point. Chapter 1.
So it's an 89-page power sprint.
Power sprint. It's mindset. Here's what it is. Here's how you can apply it. Capital formation. Here's what it is. Here's who did it. Here's how you can apply it. And the third one, the most important part, is how do you leverage courts to buy time? What I learned in my research is that the number one segment of people who are targeted for evictions are single mothers. They either can't afford a lawyer, don't have somebody in their families to be a lawyer, and they don't know the law. basic rules and procedures. So they either never show up and lose on forfeit, or when they show up, I mean,
they're not represented.
Legalese is a different language.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's some of the slumlords. What they do is they target single mothers, get them out, put a coat of paint, and raise the rent 10 times. And that's some of the games that there. So it's important to know if you lose a job, if something happens in your family, somebody gets sick, and there's an eviction, a foreclosure, or repo, whatever legal matter it is, or a debt lawsuit. How do you go there? What can you file? 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. That brings you 6 months. That buys you 6 months. That buys you a whole year for you to figure it out, to get a job.
And this is in the book?
This is in the book.
Okay, so the name of the book is The Manufacturing of Poverty. And you can go online and find this book. If you go to the website, Mahwikizi.com, you'll see a link that we have up on the TV here where you can hit buy the book, and you can go right to it and buy it. 89 pages of powerful information about your happiness, your mindset, and then you talk a lot of when you're talking about poverty, you're not necessarily talking about financial, right? That's part of it, but you're talking about people are living in a poverty of emotion.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
The financial part is a symptom. The root cause is you being okay with who you are. So you can say, hey, I've spent my whole life being a welder, but tomorrow I'm going to learn how to code and not feel shame about it. Okay, you're going to fail the first 2 months.
It's that imposter syndrome.
Yes.
We are just literally infested with imposter syndrome right now as a society. This is the most depressed that humankind has probably ever been. I mean, there are people walking around in a loincloth, having to kill their dinner, and it might have taken them 2 days to do that. And they were probably happier than we are right now.
Very happy. They're spiritually, they're happy.
IT decision makers, this might sting. Frustrated with IT issues, security threats, and the stress of your technology infrastructure, your technology should blend seamlessly with your business objectives. Technology infrastructure management with limited resources can be exhausting and counterproductive. Do you have an MSP but still have problems and technical hiccups? GSD's advisement, proactive maintenance, cutting-edge cybersecurity, cloud solutions, data backup, and local 24/7 help desk can change the game. Your technology should outpace your business operations to allow for growth, and proactive strategies should prevent issues before they arise. Get back your time and your money with GSD. Drive business forward. Leave the technology to GSD. GSDnow.com. They were one with earth. They're walking barefoot. They're feeling that energy.
That's it.
They can sense when there's a storm coming because they're connected with what's happening in the atmosphere. They know what the stars actually mean.
That's it.
You know, they're just different.
And you can tell in some of the most successful people today, they're not afraid to say no when the socially, comfortable thing to do would have said yes.
Yeah.
And said, no, this is wrong. Or I'm gonna put a rocket in the sky and bring it back. And everybody's like, you're crazy.
You're crazy.
He's done it.
Maybe not.
Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So he's got a level of oneness that I've never seen. He knows he's going to do things wrong. And that doesn't scare him.
He scares me, though.
In what way?
He scares me because he's like, he's just so like, what is he? How can you be that? Like Tesla had to scare the shit out of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
What are you even thinking? I had a guy on by the name of Ryan Walsh.
Yeah.
Started a company. This is a former special operator in the Ranger, right? He's seen some stuff.
Sure.
Starts a company called Valkyrie, drone logistics company out of the Chicagoland area.
Okay.
Guys, I'm brilliant.
That's
just
great.
brilliant. You should catch the episode.
That's awesome. I will.
He talked about the fact that in 1869, I want to say, somewhere in the 1800s, Tesla had the first patent, or what would be essentially the closest version of a patent to
an electric car?
No, to a drone.
Oh, really?
He had a patent to a drone in the 1800s. So now
I don't doubt it.
So now you look at Elon and you go, like, where are you getting this from? Where is this knowledge coming from? Like, how in the world are you even thinking that big and then able to reverse engineer it back? It's scary.
Yes, and it can. with great power. He could take it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm hoping that the hand of God is on him, and not a hand of somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because he's at that precipice right now where we go as human beings, he's got a lot of power in his hand to dictate and determine where that goes.
Absolutely.
Boy, I hope the hand of God is on him.
He's got the controller. So far, his decisions are what I expected him to
I hope
do.
so.
There's a video of Elon Musk. It's that's when he was trying to share the idea of SpaceX, and he glorified the astronauts that went on the moon, Neil Armstrong and all those guys, and they had been rebuking him. They were basically saying, "No, you're crazy. Who is this kid?" You know?
Yeah.
So
is that because maybe they didn't go on the moon?
That or they just. They have the limitation. Well, I won't go there, but the limitation is there, right?
You're talking about oneness now. We're talking about stripping the veil down. I mean, some weird stuff is coming out.
It's coming out, and more will come.
Oh, and you also made the comment, so above, so below?
Yes.
Okay, so like,
yes.
All right, maybe we start our own podcast and we talk about some other stuff.
But it crushed the guy. Like he's tearing up.
Yeah.
And for a grown man to cry on camera, it means something.
Do you think he did that because he wants it so bad for mankind? He wanted it so bad, and it was like, hey, I'm doing this to advance us. And then the people that I admire so much are essentially saying, who is this kid?
Yeah. And he said, watch me. And here's the thing. When you believe something is possible, you'll find it. And he's gone through failures, right? The first few rockets blew up, but he wasn't giving up. And the investors that invested in him knew he's got this oneness. His mindset is such that if he makes that decision, he'll sleep.
He just goes.
He'll sleep on the manufacturing plant floor.
Yeah.
So that the workers can see him. He's there. He's part of the thing. So him reaching his achievement is more important than all the feelings in the world.
You know, a lot of these people have had that reached this like can't even imagine success, have had a near-death experience. And he was beaten to the verge of his life and picked on. And because he was going to school with people that were 7 years older than him.
That's right.
And he was in the same grade and getting way better grades. I just can't even imagine how difficult that is. But he was beaten to the edge of his life. And do you think that people that have gotten to that point, it makes it much easier for them to not have the fear of all the other things? Because like, what else could be like?
They have the experience of years of trying. He had to try things by himself, right? And so, yes, it's exactly that. He trusts himself based on the experience of trying new stuff and failing and finally figuring it out, right? He's big on physics. And that's what the book is telling you. The mindset is bringing back your conscious and subconscious together through different exercises. There's multiple ways to do it. My book has the story that you can use for Plato. But knowing that there's not a single person out there who can tell you or shame you in trying to do something and failing.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe in failure anymore, you can only keep going forward. And if you keep going forward, it's mathematics. You will find that answer because
you're going forward.
You'll get rid of the other, bad answers. Edison, 1,000 times.
10,000.
10,000. He couldn't find the way to have light. Now, look
that's
what we
just
have.
Stubborn.
You have to be
just
stubborn.
Brilliant stubbornness.
See, I believe that when they say people are stubborn, those are people who know what they want, know where they're
maybe
going.
They're convicted. We're using the wrong word.
And they're convicted, and they're not looking for an answer. They're waiting for the answer. They know the answer's there, and you just got to keep going. So whether you're a sales guy, whether you're a manager, you're trying to be CFO, don't fear the layoff. Don't fear that. Try to find solutions that help your company, mankind, whatever it is, and there'll be some detractors, but eventually the answer is there. And if you don't give up, it'll be there.
So maybe I already know the answer to this because we've had a chance now to talk for almost 40 minutes, and I'm catching your vibe. You got a great energy, man. There's an aura coming off of you. I can tell you are so intentional and well-intended. And you're just adding a fantastic voice to things that should be so easy for us to comprehend and understand. It should be so natural, but we have these layers of scar tissue that society has put on us, that our friends and family have put on us, that that the outside world has put on us. And you know what's even worse? We've put on ourselves.
Exactly right.
It's just horrible.
It's a learned behavior.
So I'm going to ask you this question anyways, but I think I already know the answer. So does happiness come from success, or is success a product of happiness?
Success is a product of happiness.
Okay, explain.
The only way you're going to reach success, and most people don't realize it's happening, when you're succeeding in something or you're enjoying something, you've reached a level of oneness, right? When you take sales numbers from $3 million to $32 million in 2-3 years, you are working hard, but you're in the zone. You ever watch basketball when somebody's in the zone?
Yeah.
When they're in
He's heating up.
he's not even looking. It's going in, right? When you reach that level, if you know that you reach that level, it's
Flow state.
flow state. Most of us reach it by accident, and we're successful.
Or don't even know that we're in it.
Right. But that flow state is happiness. It's not the glee, it's not the dopamine hits that you get when, you're praised by the whole world. That's short living. That's a hit. You're high.
Yeah.
Happiness is, I'm in the flow state. I know what I'm doing. I believe in what I'm doing, and I'm doing it.
What's
That's
more
it.
important, happiness or joy?
Happiness.
Yeah.
Happiness.
Why?
Because joy comes and goes.
Okay.
People are born, people are die, right? You're allowed to cry sometimes. That's not joyful,
Mhm.
but you're happy because maybe they lived to 90 years old. Or, if it's tragedy and they leave kids, you're going to be there helping those kids. The purpose is happiness. And most of us don't have a purpose or can't find a purpose, don't know how to find a purpose. My book says, if you understand these 3 things, you will find your purpose, whatever that purpose is, and you will be in that flow state constantly because that shame, that veil is gone. So you go to the restaurant, get yelled at, smile, and say, I wish you well, and not get pissed off and try to get into a fight. Does that make sense?
Tough.
It's
Kinda
tough.
tough to do.
It's tough. It's tough to do.
I think it's really hard to get people who are happy to that point where they would have that type of reaction. You'd have to really push them to a point of threat. But for them to, if somebody who's happy is going to be like, hey, like, let's talk this up. Let's talk this
it out, right?
Everything's okay. Let me buy you a beer. We'll be okay.
Here's tell yourself you love yourself 10 times every morning in front of that mirror when you wake up, before you brush teeth, no makeup, nothing. And you're going to love that person that you don't want that person hurt. So that fight, it might last 30 seconds, but you might punch the guy the wrong way, falls the wrong way. Now you catch a manslaughter case.
Yeah.
Wish him well, because he's not attacking you because of whatever is happening. There's something that happened in his day that pissed him off.
He's attacking the thing. You're just in the way.
He's just looking for an opportunity to vent out. Some of the kids that I drove when I was doing my research, their mothers were putting them in their car at 8 a.m. to go to school, 13 years old, whatever, teenagers, with nothing but hot Cheetos as breakfast. By 10 a.m., that kid is ready to punch somebody. I'm sorry, there is no nutrition there.
No.
Right? And so if you don't understand.
Not only that, but there's that, what is it, the red dye 40 or whatever.
That too,
like,
yes.
And there's been studies that have shown like some of these like Doritos, they got like the magic formula of taste buds, and psychologically it causes you just to want to eat more and more, but like the damage that it is doing.
Yes.
So folks that are not getting those nutrients and that's their diet, those chemicals,
you can't control your emotions.
Like, what is the reaction of those chemicals?
You can't control those emotions. Another thing, there's a report in Chicago that came out, I think last year, that said between the grades of a 3rd and 8th grade, only 35% of them could read at grade level or above. So imagine if you get passed and you're a senior in high school.
You're so overwhelmed.
And deep down, you can't read.
Yeah.
Somebody says, guys, we joke all day, hey, you dummy. That shame.
It hits.
Because it's true.
Because I actually do feel dumb.
The reaction is violent. Does that make sense?
Well, what else could the reaction be? You can't prove him wrong.
You can't prove him wrong because
it's true.
He's true.
But
nobody else knows it because they're passing you up. But that fear of failure, that fear of feeling that you're on, you're under everybody, will cause you not to control your emotions. And of course, the streets will call you, the violence will call you, or drugs, depending on what neighborhood you're in.
Something to soothe you.
You have to seek it out. You have nobody to protect. You have nobody to or you believe you can't protect or provide. You find an outlet. And depending on your socioeconomic status, the outlet is drugs or selling it. The outlet is violence and selling it. You're selling it either way. But the point is, that's why they lash out, because there's that deafness of purpose.
It's amazing that we've become so intelligent and so capable and so disconnected because of it.
Yes.
Just, it's scary.
It's scary. And in my investment banking world, when I talk to business owners, I come in with that mindset. So I'm trying to figure out where he is or where she is mindset-wise. Get her ready to some kind of flow state, purpose-wise, so that in 2 years when that company is being ready to be sold, she knows, there is no doubt, right? Whether the sale fails 3 times, the goal is to sell it and take care of your people, your key people, your sales guys are taken care of. And that helps me, now that I've gone through this experience, provide the services better for my clients.
I love it. So the Mahwikizi and Company is going. It's thriving, right?
Yes.
Thriving, working with business owners to build up their valuation, create the return on investment of all the blood, sweat, and tears of building up that organization, helping them to get the intangible value for the brand building that they've created, right? You're helping the company to appear financeable, which obviously drives the value of the company, but also makes them financeable should they decide to expand. I would imagine you run into that sometimes where you're preparing a company for exit and they go, you know what? We kind of like the fact that we're really profitable and cash strong now. We think instead of selling, we're going to buy. That's probably feels pretty good for you.
We've seen those.
So
that's why we're not cheap, because that changes everything.
It changes. Well, that changes the game. I mean, it changes the strategy.
Correct.
Because at one way, you're trying to show. I would imagine the tax valuation, right? You're trying to help them with capital gains.
Right.
But if all of a sudden they're trying to expand and grow, you got to redo the tax perspective to show.
It's a different capital
max price. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Woo. Okay. So that's
exciting.
It's exciting
because it helps the community. When I say community, the employees are your community. Their families are your community.
Yeah. You're not helping the business owner just to sell the business or to increase the value of the company or to acquire machinery to expand and grow.
Correct.
They got 50 employees. Correct. Those 50 employees have 2 to 2.5.
Correct.
That are in their dominion.
Correct.
And so then they're part of a greater community. So helping that one business might be helping 600 people.
That's right. The opposite story is the city of Gary, Indiana. They sold, whoever owned the manufacturing, the steel plants, and the steel mills, they sold, but they didn't think, these workers.
Oh, yeah.
These are a family too.
Oh, gee, why do we have so much poverty all of a sudden?
All of a sudden, the activity goes out. The families, there's no pipeline, and so there was no planning.
And now the shame kicks in. And what happens when shame kicks in?
Violence,
we just talked
drugs, destruction of the family structure, and you have
8 to 12-year-old kids that only see that, and now you have generations of it.
If they stop trusting in mankind at that age, it's extremely hard to bring them back.
What could bring them back?
Exercises like understanding I go around the different communities and give the Plato's cave story, and we interact. What would you do? What would you do? Oh, this means you would be great at sales if you're 100% risk. If you're 0%, you'd be great at managing. Oh, really? Yes. Now I'm giving them a purpose. Or they're finding their purpose.
You're guiding them.
Yeah, I'm not saying go sell a computer.
Yeah,
but
you're helping them to become aware of their purpose. Yeah.
It's so simple that they can understand it, right? There's all kinds of assessments to tell you what you'll be good at, et cetera. But they're so complicated, and how it comes back, it's like, what does that mean? But if you have a simple story from 6,000 years ago, this is what you could do, they can try it. And I have a success story. This kid I picked up, he had just come back from prison for 2 years, and he was telling me why his court-appointed lawyer messed up. So he had been reading about law. I'm like, how do you know about this? How do you know about this? He's like, you know what? You should go to law school. I just said it and forgot it. About a year and a half later, this kid comes in my car, all smiles, ear to ear. And I'm thinking, do I owe this guy money?
How do I know this kid? Yeah.
She's like, you don't remember him? He's like, no. He told me the story. Remember the guy who told me about law school? Yes. He's an intern at a law firm.
Oh, man.
I said, what do you mean you're an intern? I asked him.
You could have run next to the car. You could have floated home.
Oh, man, listen. And he said, yes, and they're going to sponsor me to go to law school.
That's badass.
Just one conversation turned him around. So it's possible. but it's not me guiding him. It's just you give him the tools, he'll make the decisions. You hope he's on the right side of the law.
So Mahwikizi and companies flying. You go out, you interview 30,000 people. You get to feel this. Something tapped you on the shoulder, dude.
Absolutely.
Something tapped you on the shoulder and said, you got to go do this. Yeah. Like, I'd love to sit here and look you in the eye and go, you had such a great idea, but I feel like something said you need. Yeah,
I was guided. Absolutely.
So you go out and write this book, and then you get inspired that you should start a 501c3, right?
Yes.
Or you're part of a board of a 501c3.
Yeah.
Maybe elaborate a little bit on that.
The American Institute of Action, or are you talking about the television network?
We'll get to the television network.
Well, the American Institute of Action is trying to literally hold seminars that teaches those three things. We want to go to the poorest zip codes in this country or in Illinois, rural or urban, and we want to have these conversations that allow these young men or older people who have lost that purpose to say, hey, this is the process you go through to find it. And we're going to teach you how to, if you ever go to court, how to buy time. Because rich people buy time. Poor people should be able to buy time, but you have to use your mind now. Wisdom buys you time versus money. Does that make sense? And if you both can buy time, you're equal in the eyes of the law. And if you can buy yourself a year and tell your spouse, don't worry, we got a year to figure this out. Believe me, you're going to reach a flow state where when you're in that interview for the next job, you're not showing anxiety because you don't know where your world is going to be. You're prepped. There. You're prepped.
You're prepared.
You're calm. The energy's there, and you're going to get that job. And in a year's time, you can go to court and say, Judge, we've got the money now. Here it is. We're settled. And you should not be ashamed to go to court. Most people have a shame to it. Oh, I've been sued. I was like, great.
Welcome to America.
You're somebody in this country.
Yeah.
You're on the
known.
record.
Yeah.
Yes. Somebody will remember you now because there's a case out here. If you get sued, especially civil, it's better. Why? You're not in criminal. You're not robbing somebody. It's money.
Yeah.
Either way. But one lens, robbing a 7-Eleven, that's a problem. Versus file one piece of paper, one page of paper, buy yourself 3 months, and go to the interviews.
Yeah.
So those are as above.
Just helping to describe the better options. How would one support you in that and get involved? Whether it be, as Sean Jeffers says, whether it be time, talent, or treasure, I'm sure they can offer one of those things to help out.
Absolutely. Time, treasure, and being there is important. If you're with different churches or organizations that cater to these communities, invite us. We'll come and speak. We'll do an assessment. We'll do a retreat if you need to. But we got to convince people again. Trust yourself.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed.
Love that. So now all of a sudden you decide that you're going to go big time, right? You're going to compete with ESPN and CNN and Fox News, and you're going to start up this television station. So tell us about the television station. What's it called? What's the premise? And when is my show starting on it?
It's called the Private Television Network, okay? One is the communities we're talking about, the lowest of the lowest, I guess, from an economic perspective. I've been trying to figure out how to reach them. And one of the kids I was driving and said, hey, we don't read anymore. I can't read. He was like 30 years old. He said, I can't read. He can't. And I said, well, how am I going to reach you? Just like any other conversation, say, it's got to be videos. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to be a YouTube star. I don't have a face like yours. Shoot,
you must have bad vision.
So we talked with a team and we said, well, where do these people congregate? And we found out the public square for young adults or people in urban areas, renters, et cetera, who may be on the lower socioeconomic side, is the laundromat. And we found that in this country, 32 million people go to the laundromat every single week.
What the hell?
For an average time of an hour or two. And we started going to laundromats. And guess what? Mothers and their children are there. Immigrants, whatever it is, they're all there, whether they speak English or not. Yeah. And we looked at the TVs, and I was part of transactions selling laundromats in the M&A world. We went to an owner and said, why are your TVs not on? He's like, it's a cost. I don't want to do it. They're going to come here anyway. So I said, okay, well, can we lease the televisions and we'll pipe our own content? We want to speak to these people when they're here for 30 seconds at a time. And I said, sure, give us a price. And so I went to talk to folks. I was like, yeah, we have content. We can have trivia on basic geography, things to teach the kids so they can teach their parents if they don't speak English. And now we have a Spanish channel as well. And so we're deploying across Chicago. We're in 10 locations, and we want to be in every single one of them so that every week we can talk to these families about what we just talked about, but in small bites that they can digest to help them reach an achievement mindset so that they don't, when they're given that choice to be a gangbanger or not, they can say no and not be ashamed of it and go the right way if they have a purpose. How do we catch them early? We want to talk to the 8 and 12-year-old as early as possible.
So most of you would probably believe what I'm about to tell you. I watched Justin walk in from his car into the studio, and he needed a wheelbarrow to put his heart in it to roll it up because he couldn't just walk by himself with his heart. He had to roll it up here in a wheelbarrow. I mean, everything that you've just talked about, you clearly are very intelligent, but everything that you're doing is leading from the heart.
Yes.
With a very intentional caveat to that you're bringing back to the finance part.
Yes.
Because you're helping people to find a way to break the shame, break the fear, find the happiness, and then instruct them with real data, real studies, real information to plug them into the ethos, if you will, the ether, whatever you want to call it, so that they can start to work on their finances and get themselves on track so that they can maintain that positive attitude and not feel the shame anymore.
Correct.
Summed it up.
Correct.
It's really inspiring, man.
It's negotiate. Thank you. I appreciate it. Negotiations 101. They're not, not a lot of people are doing this. But my goal is, how do you stop from getting to the point in my country when I was younger where it's neighbor versus neighbor, and there is no hate there. It's the shame and politics. You put people.
They're not mad at the person. They're mad at their situation. The person just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Every 4 years, and the elections in this country, it's my situation sucks. It must be somebody's fault, and it's nobody's fault. It's you got to get out of your own way.
Yeah,
remove the shame.
Oh, I'm glad that you say that, because as much as we want to help people out, help the poor, help the less fortunate, we always want to do that. But I'm glad that you made that point, because it takes two to tango.
Yes.
And each individual has to want to help themselves.
Yes. They
have to want it. Yeah. And we can keep doing these things like you're doing to create the vehicle to do that, but you got to want to get in the vehicle.
You got to have an achievement mindset. If you give that to everyone, you reduce like 80% of the problems we have in this country, in the world.
Yeah, in the world. Yeah.
Because if you accept the truth for what it is, okay, it didn't work. Let's go next. You know what I mean? It's sales, being able to knock on doors and get that door shut in the face and go to the next house.
Yeah, the law of averages. You just go, look, 10. If 10 slam the door on me, I know based on my numbers, 11 says yes. Can't wait to get to 11.
You know the answer is there.
Yeah.
And you're walking towards it. Yeah. Never mind who insults you or closes that door.
Please slam the door in my face, because I know the next one, based on my averages, the next one's a yes.
That's it.
Help me get there faster. Slam the door on me, because I know where I'm going. I'm going right to that one, and they're going to say yes. But you got to have that vibe. You got to know that
it's there. You're going to trust the process.
Yeah.
And that's a flow state. That's the achievement mindset. And if you have that,
that's a growth mindset. Yeah.
It's a growth mindset. It's you can only grow if you're going to achieve. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And that's the best way to go there. And then once you know it, then you can take care of the finances. You can take care of the legal stuff, because all finance stuff is a contract. Every sales contract has, if something is broken, you go to law. So you got to be able to speak those languages and understand and not let it intimidate you and show up.
Yeah.
Right? Because otherwise you're going to lose by forfeit. And
so every Thursday, what you're saying is we're going to be seen at laundromats throughout the country. You're going to put the Get Shit Done experience on. Throw that bad boy up there.
Why not?
Let's go.
Why not? 30 seconds of your program can change a kid's life.
I love it.
I was in college, broke, damn near homeless in Philly when I went to Temple University. And it was in the spring semester of 2002.
The Owls?
The Owls.
Let's go.
I was sitting in this class, and this Italian-American professor who just came back from Italy dropped the Plato story. It changed my life.
Wow.
3 minutes it took for him to say it. But I was like, wait,
And
what?
let me go read that.
My life changed after
Yeah.
that. So if you can, 30
Crazy.
seconds,
What are the
3 minutes.
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
Exactly.
That you were the one who had to hear that. He prepared that for everybody.
For everybody.
Nobody else is doing what you're doing because of that story.
Correct.
So that story was told for you in that moment. You had to be in that moment.
And I had to be there and resonate and hear it.
Yeah.
And I've never.
And now lives are changed from it.
Changed my life. So now I'm trying to, hopefully change one kid's life out there.
It's amazing. All right, so we're gonna flip this up here to the segment we call Quick Hits.
Sure.
By the way, does this feel like an hour?
No.
We're at
No, I thought it was
58
like 10
minutes,
minutes,
man.
right?
Yeah, right? It's guess what?
Conversation.
Flow state, baby.
That's right.
That's the flow
right.
state.
That's
We
right.
should call it the Flow State Studio.
Why not?
The Get Shit Done experience from the Flow State Studio. That's got kind of a rhyme to
Trademark
it.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Hey, Tim, let's get some signage in here for the Flow State Studio. All right. So this is Quick Hits. I'm going to rifle off like 5 or 6 questions at you. This is just so that we can get a little bit to know you as the person, a little bit of fun, a little bit of, little bit of flavor. Okay.
Sure.
You ready?
Let's go.
Quick Hits number 1. Best quarterback in the history of the Chicago Bears.
Ooh.
I'll wait.
Yeah, come back to me next week. I don't know. The 85 team, that's it. I mean,
Best quarterback?
Yeah.
Jim McMahon.
I guess so.
Is that it?
That's the only one, yeah.
I mean, some would say
Cutler wasn't it? I'll tell you that.
Cutler was pretty good if you look at the stats, but I mean, when you say Chicago Bears quarterback,
Yeah.
it's kind of like,
Yeah.
who's the tallest midget?
Yes. Next.
All right, next. If you were to go on vacation tomorrow and it was the absolute dream vacation, where are you going? Who's coming with?
I'm going to Tanzania, bringing my family. And like Adam said, I watched one of the podcasts there. We're going to go see Mount Kilimanjaro.
Okay. What's the beauty of that? I understand that it's, such a renowned place, but
I've been there. You feel something. I don't know how you say
Okay.
it. You feel something, and you see snow on the top of the mountain.
yeah.
And in Africa, there's no snow.
You
except
think you
for-
feel something because you're so high up, you're lightheaded?
Oh no.
Or is there an
No, you'd be
actual
passing
energy
out.
you think is happening?
I
There's so much
didn't
history.
Climb it. I didn't climb it. I was at the base.
Okay.
But you do feel something. I
Yeah.
don't know if you should try it. It's,
Yeah.
And Tanzania, it's got both the city life on Dar es Salaam, the Zanzibar, little retreat kind of thing, but then you got the wildlife as well, which is where Mount Kilimanjaro.
I have not crossed an ocean.
Oh, we got to fix that.
Yeah, we got to fix that.
We gotta
Like I've
fix
been to
that
Mexico, I've been to Costa Rica, I've been to Canada.
We got to go.
I haven't
Tanzania.
been other places.
Yes.
It would help if the economy would improve and it wasn't $250 a week for groceries. Maybe I could save up some money to
That would
go to a place. So hopefully that'll
Definitely
improve
help.
here
Yes,
shortly. I don't
yes.
know. We'll see.
I'll
All right,
organize a retreat and take a couple of people together.
let's
get
go. I
going.
love retreats.
Yes.
All right, quick hits number 3. The greatest meal that you've ever had. What was the dish and where was it at?
Philly cheesesteak, South Philly, 2001.
Which place? Because now we're talking Geno's, right?
Pat's.
Was it
It was
Pat's?
Pat's.
What and how do you do it? What's your way of ordering it?
Oh, there's only one way. What are you talking
Well, is there only
Glazed
one?
cheese, some onions on top and straight. I mean, it just hits different.
So I was in Philly for 2 nights,
Yeah.
business trip, way back when, and so it was like we're gonna go here this night
Yeah.
and we're gonna go here that night, and I can't remember which one, but the guy behind the counter was like, "Dude, I got a little insight for you." I'm like, "Okay, well, like I'm from Chicago, man. I don't know how to do this. Like we got Italian beefs, right? So Italian beefs, we dip it in, and
Yeah.
it's a whole
Yeah.
different thing."
Yeah.
I go, "So let's give me the." He's like, "Psst, hey man, come on." He's like, he got the inside scoop. He goes, "You got to put mayo on it." I'm like, "Okay," and you like see, like there was some other like regulars in there, and a few of them were like, "Listen to him," you know what I mean? And then there was other like, "That's gross. You can't do that." Like,
This was Pat's or Geno's?
I can't
Do you
remember which one it was.
See, now I got to go back. I definitely got to go back.
But I what I do remember is we were outside.
Yeah, they're both outside. They're right next to each
Yeah.
other. Yeah.
Okay. So one is like whatever one it was, I was facing this way, and the other one was left of me, kitty corner
I think that was
up
Pat's.
the street. So it might have been
Yeah.
Pat's. The guy goes,
Well, it
"Psst,
depends which way you were looking, north
Yeah.
or south. But yeah.
you got to put mayo
some
on it."
mayo.
So I got to tell you, I tried it. Freaking amazing. So
Really?
to this day,
Amazing.
10 years later, or whatever it is, I get a Philly cheesesteak. Every waitress or waiter that I talk to, I'm like, bring me a side of mayo. And they look at me like, what the hell is this guy doing? I'm telling you right now, listeners, put a little mayo on your Philly cheesesteak. You won't go wrong.
There you go.
All right, quick hit. Number 4. If you could be the best professional athlete in any sport, what sport would it be, and what position would you play in that sport?
Soccer, midfield.
Midfield. Why?
Well, I grew up playing soccer, and if you look at how many miles people actually run playing the
they're in
sport,
shape.
The soccer guys are insane.
Insane.
I don't know how they do it. So whether it's Ronaldo or Messi or those guys, yeah, it's a great sport. It's a team sport. You have to pass.
What team would you want to be on?
Ooh, Chelsea when Drogba was still playing.
Okay.
Yes.
Why? Drogba, you said?
Drogba, yeah. He's from Ivory Coast. I grew up. He's my Michael Jordan of the soccer.
Oh, okay. All right.
He won left and right. But I have a funny soccer story. I took my kids this March to the Chicago Fire. They were playing Montreal, and we were courtside. And my 10-year-old somehow was able to high five one of the guys who scored for Chicago Fire. And he turns around. He's like, "Dad, I know what I want to be.
Okay.
I want to be a soccer player." I was like, "Okay,
Let's
there you go." So he's in the program.
Couldn't be happier about that, I'm sure.
So the sports is soccer. I'm all in.
Okay, quick hit. Final question. Final quick hit. You ready?
Yes.
What would be the greatest thing that somebody could say about you after you pass?
Ooh. He was a good man. That's it. That's all I need.
Boom. Love that. Absolutely outstanding. All right, let's wrap this bad boy up. We've done nothing but get shit done on this episode.
Let's do it.
You've been absolutely fantastic. I always like to end the show with words of inspiration, special tips that you would give to people, some sort of advice, something that's on your mind right now that you feel like you need to transfer to the universe. You need to throw it out there, and hopefully one person grabs it, just like your professor told you that story and you grabbed onto that, and then you started making some things happen for yourself and the people that come in contact with you. So what would be that thing if you had to rifle off a thought or a statement? What would be that inspirational thing you want to leave us with?
Damn, that's a good question. Does
Take your time.
Ever answer this question?
They do, but normally I have to edit out the 2 to 3 minutes that they have to think about it, so it's seamless. So take your time. The edit button is a beautiful thing.
There is no magic formula. Trust yourself. Allow yourself to fail. Success is on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So when we hire, we first make the folks read the book, and we say write a 2-page essay on why why it resonated with you, and how you're going to apply it to your community and your life. And literally, that's the interview. That essay is what
tells you everything you need to know.
If we can hire you, and even if we don't have a position for you, we'll call our friends and say this guy's good. So we'll never sit down for a 30-minute conversation. I want to see a 2-page written. Not by ChatGPT, but a 2-page written on who you are, what that story told you, and which part you want to be. And we can tell if you're going to be a sales guy, a great education guy, or gal, or a manager. And that's our thing.
I love it. Those of you that want to get shit done, I want you to remember something, because Justin just pointed it out. Fear the biggest fear always happens right before you do something amazing.
Yes.
So if you're going to get shit done, you should feel some fear right before it. But it's not fear, it's excitement.
That's right.
It's excitement, because you're about to break through and you're about to get shit done. And Justin, I want to remind you, sir, you got shit done.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
It's an honor. Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for coming up. Can your business handle 15% growth? If yes, you have to engage with 2020 Design. They fuse data and creativity to stop the scroll, break through the noise, and grab the attention of your future customers. 2020 Design will create competitive, click-worthy campaigns, design and build custom websites, spark your social media presence, and structure email campaigns that get right to your audience, the decision maker. Let's boost attention and awareness, which allows you to convert more sales. Check them out at 2020 20design.com. That's the number 20, TWENTY design.com.